What is up, Big 12? It is Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. It's time for another edition of The Biggest 12 right here on Big 12 Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. I, of course, am your host, Clint Foster, and we've got a great show for you tonight. It is UCF night. It is Don't Call Me a Golden Knight from Florida Tech night. We got the Citronaut here from behind me. And for one night only, I will say we are welcoming in a guest from the 2017 national champions, alleged UCF Knights. Before we get started with any of that, though, because we got a great show for you. Make sure that you do like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's Big 12 VOCFB. There it is, right there. Got lots of great stuff on this channel. It's not just me, but you don't want to miss this every Tuesday night. This is a great thing that we do, and we're trying to grow this show. Okay, after your Resurrection Sunday, you're having some ham or lamb with the family. Say, you know what? I got something that you need to check out. It's the Big 12. Oh, you're a Florida State fan, you say. Well, if you're not, because, you may be in this conference soon anyway. So like, subscribe, share, do all of the things. And if you're into this sort of thing, there is actually a Texas channel if you feel so behooved. We're certified haters on this channel, but if you feel so behooved to be interested in a Texas show, Voice of College Football is bringing the Texas channel back. Launch party happens on April 8th. That is not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, the Monday after Easter Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the main channel, and a Texas channel that is getting started up. So keep your eye out for that. Mark Rogers will be involved in that one. If you haven't already, please follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. Follow my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. Hoping to have something new on there for you very soon. And I think that's enough for show business. Blah. Let's get this show started. Let's talk some UCF Knights. And without further ado, welcome in my guest for the evening. It is none other than Adam Eaton, one of the hosts of Sons of UCF. Adam, thank you so much for being here Tuesday night.
Clint, wow, that's quite an opening. I don't know if I can keep that energy level up, but I'll do what I can for the faithful listener out there. Thanks for having us on the show tonight.
Yes, absolutely. So, first thing, before we get into anything here, Adam, is Pluto a planet? That's what I need to know from you.
I don't think so. I thought it was a character in some sort of a cartoon last I checked. I don't believe it's an actual planet anymore.
Playing into all the UCF stereotypes, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I was not an engineering major, though. I was a criminal justice major, so perhaps I missed that class, or I slept through it because it was 8 a.m. on a Monday. But I don't believe Pluto. We count that anymore.
What is it with criminal justice classes? I totally had a criminal justice class at 8 a.m. and I missed most of them. Yeah, back at it. Wow, that must be a thing. So we are going to talk some more space trivia later because, there's some rumblings among, the people out there of who is the real Space U. Is it UCF, as their uniforms would suggest, or is it Houston? Right, where Mission Control is, or, is it Purdue, where Neil Armstrong went? Who's to say? But we're going to try and settle that because I have Houston coming on 2 weeks from now. So we're going to have some comparative space trivia. We're going to see who you're going to be carrying the banner for all of UCF's glory, okay?
Okay, this is tough. This is going to be tough.
No pressure, Adam. We'll get to that when we get to it. But first, let's talk some football. 2023, a bit of a mixed bag for the Knights. Overall, I would say positive. You make a bowl game your first year in the Big 12. That's always a good thing. I'm going to start with the same question that I ask everybody I have on the show. If you had to assign a letter grade to the 2023 season, what would you, Adam, give the Knights?
I would give it a C-. I think there was way too much inconsistency throughout the year. I think, to your point, a couple of nice wins. Oklahoma State was a huge win for UCF, but a pesky 5-game losing streak, losing to Baylor and the incredible fashion that we did, and not even really being in games against Kansas State and Kansas. I think it's a C-. And I think it's largely that, too, because I think, I hate to bash coaches because, they have a tough job, but I think Gus Malzahn coming into this season, the 2023 season, thought that, okay, UCF was ready to compete and that we were ready at that level, and kind of give the fan base a little bit of juice, a little bit of hope. And it turned out that was kind of far from the truth. And I think Gus underestimated the physicality in the Big 12. I think he underestimated the level of play in the Big 12. He tried to trot out two brand new coordinators, one on both sides of the ball. Those two coordinators have since been replaced, which obviously shows you that he feels like that was a mistake. So I think overall UCF thought they were prepared to go in the Big 12 and be successful, but it was very clear early on that we just didn't have the horses to stay in games. And you lose a couple fantastic games like you do at Baylor, and all of a sudden you're in a 5-game losing streak. And your first Big 12 win is against Cincinnati. And do we really count that? I mean, they're already in the American. It's not really a Big 12 win. And so I got to say C-. I think that, expectations were really high. And I think that, we didn't prepare as well as we needed to step into the Big 12. And I think you saw that on the field.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned there is a learning curve, right? Especially coming from Group of 5 conference to the Big 12. I mean, TCU experienced it back in 2012. I mean, very similar situation to UCF, still made a bowl game, 7 wins we had that my senior year back at TCU. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole difference in depth specifically. And if you suffer any injuries or, your quarterback gets arrested for driving under the influence, right, then you're going to feel that. You're going to see that on the field. And y'all were without your starting quarterback for a decent chunk of the season. I mean, remind me, how long was he out?
Yeah, so John Rice Plumlee got hurt in game 2 at Boise State. He missed the better part of the next 3 to 4 weeks. He tried to play against Kansas, made it all of 2 plays, and sort of re-aggravated that injury. But Clint, even when he came back, he wasn't the same. I mean, part of John Rice Plumlee's game is his ability to run, his ability to scramble out of the pocket and make plays. And when you have a knee brace on and you're not able to accelerate like you used to, you kind of become one-dimensional. And John Rice Plumlee is never going to confuse anybody for a throwing quarterback. And I think that obviously set up to be a recipe for disaster for a while for UCF. So he came back within 4 weeks, but he really wasn't the same throughout the entire season, having not had the mobility in his leg, which really is kind of the key. But here's the thing, Clint. People look back at Gus Malzahn and say, listen, you knew you had an injury-prone quarterback. Plumlee didn't finish the season the year before at UCF. He was injured a bunch, right? He's a physical style player. He wants to get out of the pocket. Even though he's a baseball player, he does not like the slide, which you go figure that one out. I don't understand it. So you knew he was prone to get injured, yet we didn't really have a great backup quarterback plan in place. We tried out a kid in Timmy McClain who hadn't played in about 2.5 years after redshirting, sitting out a year after coming from the Cows at South Florida. So one could say, Gus, you knew that you had a quarterback that has a high propensity for injury, yet we had no backup plan. We had nothing in place there as well. So you can blame it on Plumlee, and certainly his injury played a big role. But again, I kind of pointed back to Gus and say, you knew this was a possibility. You knew that you may need to have a backup quarterback on the ready, and we tried out a guy that hadn't played in a couple of years. I think that just speaks to perhaps Gus having a little bit of ego about maybe what he could do in the Big 12, or just thinking he could out scheme everybody, and his fancy pants offense would do something, and obviously clearly that didn't come to fruition.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I know you're a true fan because of the way that you're underselling UCF's successes from last year. I feel like we always are way more critical on our own team. I mean, for me, an outside looking in, I would have given UCF season a B. You make a bowl game, and there were several of those games that you were in. I mean, you mentioned not being competitive against Kansas, but like Oklahoma is a game that you very easily, I would even say, should have won. And you also look at the Texas Tech game. That was a very, very close game in the Jones and Lubbock. I mean, that's a hard place to win. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism moving forward. If you had to assign, and I think I know which direction you're going to go with this, if you had to assign a high point to last season, what would you say that the high point was?
Well, I'd say the high point from a game standpoint was the game against Oklahoma State, right? Where you come out and just blow their doors off. And that's after, coming off of, again, a couple of rough weeks, barely beating Cincinnati for your first ever Big 12 win. But I think more so of that game, what's interesting about it is that game was billed as how many yards will Ollie Gordon run for? Like how many hundreds of yards, because at that point, Ollie Gordon was just tearing up the Big 12 from a rushing perspective. UCF had the worst rushing defense in the Big 12. It just felt like a match made a disaster for UCF. And come to find out, Ollie Gordon, I think, had 25 yards rushing that game, but RJ Harvey on the UCF side had over 200 yards rushing. And so I think not only the score of that game, but that felt like a game where you saw the brotherhood come together, and the defensive guys talked after the game about, listen, like we took this personally. Everybody said we can't stop the run. Everyone said this guy's going to run for an NCAA record on us, and they took that personally. And then a running back on UCF side, and RJ Harvey was like, wait a minute, what about me as a top running back in the Big 12? What's all this Ollie Gordon nonsense?
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes out and plays well. And I think that not just the win and the high victory margin, but I think it's the way they won that game and sort of what that said about this team, that you said to yourself, okay, the results aren't on the field as often as you'd want them to be. But I think that spoke a lot about the character of what UCF's team was last year and the players that they had and the pride they had in trying to win for each other. And didn't always work it on the field. I know that sounds very Pollyanna, but I think that game for us was, okay, not only did we win this thing, but we did so in a way that's kind of remarkable and a way that played with a chip on our shoulder. And I think that was the most fun part of the 2023 season.
That's why we love college football, man. And I did just confirm 12 carries, 25 yards for Ollie Gordon in that game. It's insane. And our resident Oklahoma State fan, Wet Blanket, says, hang the banner. Right? He's like,
I'll hang the banner. Wet Blanket. Yeah, I'll hang in the banner. Yes. It was wet that day, by the way. So I feel bad for Wet Blanket because it was like a deluge of weather that day. So I'm sorry for Wet Blanket there.
You would think perfect conditions to run the ball, but Mike Gundy's gonna Mike Gundy. Let's be real. So if you had to assign a low point to the season last year, where you're just like, just really left a bad taste in your mouth, is it that Baylor game, or is there something else that stands out to you?
It can't be anything but Baylor, Clint. It's got to be that Baylor game where we're up. I think it was 28-3 at one point. We're up 25 points, and to come back and lose that game 36-35 on a last second play. I mean,
it's a bad Baylor team too.
Bad Baylor team. Home opener for the Big 12, packed house. We were honoring the 2013 team that beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. So everyone's having a good time. Everybody's partying. And all of a sudden it's like, well, fine. They won one. That's fine. It's a fumble. Okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. They scored a touchdown. No big deal. And before you know it, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it went from people dancing in the aisles students left at halftime. There was a lot of controversy here. Students left at halftime because they're like, well, this thing's over. Let's get to the party and get our drink on. And before he knew it, we were down late. And so that one, from all the games of UCF I've attended, that may be one I never get over, just based on how much it was in the bag and all of a sudden it wasn't, and everything it meant. And then the hangover effect of the next couple of weeks where you go on that losing streak and you get your doors blown off at Kansas. You lose on a spectacularly dumb play call against Oklahoma, right? It just felt like that was kind of a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Well, and hey, you mentioned that 2013 Fiesta Bowl. I have never rooted so hard for UCF as I did in that Fiesta Bowl because, America, I am a hater. Yes, I'm a certified hater. Baylor hater, Texas hater. Absolutely. So you did get wins too against the two former American opponents, Cincinnati and Houston. Who would you say UCF has more beef with, by the way, between the two of those teams?
Cincinnati by far. I mean, I think those two kind of became the darlings, if you will, of the group of five, sort of in that latter infancy of the American Conference, right? UCF in 2017, 2018, Cincinnati obviously gets to the playoff in 21. So those two teams kind of circled each other for a while. They were kind of the darlings of that sort of group of five school. And, for UCF fans, it was very much like, hey, we crawled so you can walk, right? Cincinnati fans wanted no part of that. They walked on their own, damn it. They don't need us, right? So there was just a lot of that conversation, and some tough ball games. I mean, Luke Fickell had UCF's number for a couple of years there, and was beating UCF pretty handily. So by far, it's those two. Houston, I mean, yeah. Are there Houston fans? I mean, every now and again they come out of the woodwork and they yell at us about space and whatnot. But there isn't a ton of, even though we've had much better games in our history against Houston. I mean, they've gone back and forth. UCF has over the last decade and a half. But there just doesn't seem to be a lot of juice, I think, from those two fan bases. Usually during Space Week, everyone yells about who invented space and blah blah blah. But Cincinnati, I mean, there's a day in and day out sort of hatred and rivalry going and sort of budding there from that standpoint. So it's Houston by far. Or sorry, Cincinnati by far.
I love all the shots being fired among all of the new teams that I'm bringing onto the show these last couple of weeks, because we had Cincinnati on last week, and it may or may not delight you to know we did a rivalry ranking, like a hate tier list.
I got tagged in that. Yeah, no, I saw our friends Justin and from the Viva La Cats podcast. I saw we got tagged in that.
They were inclined to rank you in the A tier.
Perfect. And that's exactly how it should be.
Instead of the S tier. Just like, we don't think about them really at all. Okay, so let's look ahead because The sense is from around the country and from Tim here in the chat, and I would imagine among a lot of UCF fans, that next year could be a major step forward for the Knights. I'll go ahead and pull up the schedule right now. We can talk about it together. What are your thoughts going into 2024? I mean, you get KJ Jefferson, which is a huge get at quarterback, some other big transfers that maybe I'm forgetting. What are your thoughts on 2024? What do you see?
Yeah, I think so. UCF positioned itself in a much different space this offseason than last offseason. I think last offseason, what Gus did is he went to the portal, and I think he just filtered by like big college name and said, "Ooh, Clemson, let me get this guy. Ooh, Washington, let me get this guy." And it turns out many of those guys did not actually even see the field for UCF. So last year's transfer portal class was a complete just strikeout for Gus Malzahn. This offseason, he prioritized positions. He prioritized folks who had played and having experience, right? So we didn't go out and get that sexy name outside of KJ Jefferson, but he filled a lot of holes on the defensive side of the ball, specifically where UCF struggled the most. So I think for one, there's a lot of encouragement that we did a better job this offseason in the portal of going after position of need and guys who have experience playing versus a guy who was maybe out of school or had a couple of stars but only played like 7 snaps. I think Gus prioritized that, which I think is helpful. You mentioned KJ Jefferson, losing John Rice Plumlee, there wasn't a huge quarterback pipeline coming through UCF. So KJ fills a big need there, a big, strong running back kind of style quarterback, plays exactly how Gus wants to play. You'd think it's a perfect fit for his system. Gus also retooled the coaching staff in the offseason. Ted Roof comes over from Oklahoma. He's now the new defensive coordinator for UCF. Gus decided to take back over play calling duty, so he's now calling the offense. So new strength and conditioning coach was brought in with the goal of making sure UCF had the ability to stay in games late. I think Gus felt like the teams were tired late in games and just didn't have the depth, didn't have the conditioning. And so all things point to Gus looking at the 23 season saying, where did I miss, and making some direct impacts to try to do something different in 2024. Now, the schedule is interesting, right? Because in this case, it sets up for UCF. There's more home games than road games this year. So last year, UCF played more road games in the Big 12. This year, you have more home games, but you have some unknowns, right? You have, 3 of the new schools coming in there: Arizona State, Utah, who UCF has zero legacy against, and you don't know how those schools are going to play. You have a school like Colorado coming in, and again, Dion early in the season, is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad again? I don't think anybody really knows there. So I think there's some things to like about this schedule. There's some teams to like on the schedule. Some of your tougher games are going to be at home, where UCF is better. But again, I think it's such a crapshoot to understand how some of these teams are going to perform, particularly as the portal heats up. But I think what Gus has done with his offseason moves is he's galvanized his fan base again. And Clint, I think anything less than 9 wins, and that's going to sound a tad crazy to a lot of people. I think anything less than 9 wins is going to have people calling this season disappointment, because I think Gus has basically said, I've loaded up. We're all in. We play at Florida. I don't think anyone thinks Florida is going to be a really dominant team this year. And so that feels like a game UCF maybe can go in there and sneak one out. 2 cupcakes to start. Cincinnati was number we've had of late. So I think there's some winnable games on this schedule, but I think Gus has raised the ante, and I think 9 wins is where a lot of people are going to set their high watermark for UCF this year.
Okay, 9 wins. So, and yeah, this is a very interesting schedule, because in some ways your hard games are spread out, but the road schedule is very tough, and November stands out to me. I mean, that is a pretty rough end to the season. Just, because, we're a little unsure what Arizona is going to be with their new coach. They're definitely going to have a lot of talent. And then you got to make the long trip to Arizona State, which, even if they are trash, that's a long trip. At West Virginia is a very, very tough place to get a win. I would say West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Tech, those are the 3 toughest places to get a win in this conference. And then you have Utah at home, which, who knows what Utah is going to be. I mean, there's a lot of chatter of, hey, they're going to be competing for the conference title, but also this is the same Utah team that needed a missed pass interference call to beat Baylor last year. So I'm not really sure what to make of Utah. And I do think, you talked about getting Colorado early. I think actually getting Colorado early is the worst time to get them, right? Nobody's injured yet. Their dreams have not been crushed yet. And that's immediately before that trip to Florida, which, the last thing you want to do is be looking ahead, being excited about that Florida game and what will be obviously a tough environment as well. This is fascinating. Because Iowa State, Florida, West Virginia, those are all very tough road games. But yeah, so if you're seeing 9 wins, where are the 9? Help me count. Where are the 9 that you're seeing them, man?
Yeah, so I'm seeing that obviously the first two, right? I think you chalk those two. I think you hope you can beat a Colorado team in the middle of September where it's going to be blazing hot in Florida, and a tough road trip
That
there. So
is
I think
true. That is true.
I
Yeah,
think you're
that's a good
hoping
point.
you can see a win there. I think you're hoping you can see a win at Florida. I think you're hoping you can get a win at Cincinnati, right? Those things have kind of bared out. I think same with BYU coming in late October. I think, again, a home game, I think you like your chances. And then to your point, Arizona, right? You don't know what they're going to be at this point. At late in the season. How's their new program going to come together? They're going to fold, right? So I think that puts me at what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins right there. And then you need to get lucky against a road team like a TCU, like an Arizona State, like a West Virginia, or hope you can pull out a Black Friday against Utah. And I think that's the recipe for UCF is you've got, 4 or 5 games that you think you have a leg up on, not easy, but you think you'd have the advantage. And then football happens, right? And you hope somebody tips a ball and the ball bounces off a goalpost. And before you know it, you've got an opportunity. Again, I know you obviously spent a lot of time with TCU. I don't know what to expect of TCU this year either, right? Obviously disappointing year after last year.
Most of us aren't sure what to expect, Adam.
And I think that's the thing is there's so many teams on here where you go, is TCU going to be good? And you go, well, maybe. Well, I don't know. Right. And that's the thing. I don't think you look at any team in the schedule and say, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to get with this team. Iowa State maybe is that at Iowa State. I think you kind of understand that the fighting Matt Campbells and what they're going to bring. But I think you see 5, 6
I have very
wins.
high expectations for Iowa State this
Same.
coming.
I think that's going to be a really tough game. That's one I really want no part of. But again, it's football, man. Something happens, you get lucky, and all of a sudden you've lucked into 8 and 9 wins. So I think that's the recipe for UCF is, win some of the easy ones, try to take care of business at home. UCF has historically been better at home than on the road, and then hope you just kind of get luck of the draw and lightning in a bottle in one of these road games, or a team, particularly late in the season, like an Arizona State or a West Virginia. Coaching issues at this point. Neil Brown's on the proverbial hot seat every year, it feels like, right? Like all of a sudden things are going bad. And, do you have a team that maybe you catch and you sleep up on? And so I think that's your recipe for 8 to 9 for UCF. Again, I'm not going to put any amount of money that means something to me on that 8 or 9, but I think that's the logic for a lot of UCF fans and how you get to that valuation.
Sure. I want to point out a couple of comments from Jackson Johnson. Thank you, Jackson, for chiming in. Says something I've noticed about UCF with Malzahn is they win games they shouldn't, and they lose games they shouldn't. And then he goes on to say, why do I have a weird feeling that UCF could lose to Cincinnati, and then the next thing we know, they somehow beat Arizona? What do you think about that?
We have a saying, Gus is going to Gus, right? Like Gus is good for 3 to 4 head-scratching plays a season where you go, what in the hell was that? And if you need any evidence, see the wide receiver pass for a 2-point conversion against Oklahoma going to his left when he's right-handed, right? That's just the Gus Malzahn experience. He's, I have a co-host on one of our shows who says Gus is good for 4 losses every year. He's good for 4 losses every season, and sometimes he gets lucky and lucks himself into maybe not 4 but 3. Right? Gus is going to do that. It's the Gus Malzahn experience. He's been doing that since he's been at Auburn. You just come to expect at the worst possible time he's going to throw some sort of a left tackle lateral screen backwards, off somebody's helmet for some sort of tricky play. What I've always said about Gus offensively is I feel like Gus doesn't have a system. He has plays, right? Some offenses have a system. This is what they want to do. Gus has plays that he likes to run, but when push comes to shove and you're 3rd and 3 in a close game and you need to do something, a lot of coaches look across the line and say, this is what I do best. This is what we're going to do. Gus always strikes me as the kind of guy that says, let me outsmart the other team. Right. So, hey, they think I'm going to do this, but I'm really going to do that. Right. As opposed to saying it's 3rd and 3. My bread and butter play is I'm going to turn around and put it in this guy's belly and he's going to get me 4 yards for a first down. Gus goes, hey, let me outsmart this guy. Yeah. And I feel like that's just indicative of Gus's system. He doesn't have a system. He has plays. He has plays that work, and he tries to get a little tricky, a little cute at times, and he doesn't rely on what does my team do better than anybody else right now? Let me lean on that, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, I went down with my best pitch. Gus doesn't do that. Gus is going to try to find some way to sort of trick you into trying to get, yards. And sometimes it's spectacular and you laugh and your head off and it's fun. And sometimes you're like, we are the laughing stock of college football. And that's the full Gus Malzahn experience.
Yeah. TCU fans are certainly no stranger to that sort of an offensive, we'll call it situation, right? Where it's like, what is our identity? We're just throwing things at the wall and trying to outsmart the other team. I wanted to also say one other thing about that Utah game there at the end of the year. It's very interesting to me as someone who is chronically online, and I believe that you are the same way, Adam. These are two teams, UCSF and Utah, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but they appear to have, at least on Twitter, tried to position themselves as the new Texas, in their first year in the conference. Do you think there's anything to that? Do you think that could add a little extra spice to this game, or am I just completely off base?
UCF will fight with anybody online. So if there's an online fight to be had, UCF is showing up to the dance every time and they will answer the bell. And so I think they're always willing to mix it up with a fan base that is willing to mix it up in return. Look, you got to think, for UCF fans, their ascension to a Power Five team was not ordained, right? They're the youngest college football team in the Power Five. 1979 was the first time they played football. They weren't D1 until 1996, right? So they are the youngest college football team in the Power Five. 1963 is when UCF opened their doors. So, and throughout the sort of the mid 20s, you mentioned the Fiesta Bowl, you mentioned the 2017 National Championship. All UCF was ever told was, yeah, that's cute and everything, but like you can't play at this level. Yeah, fine, you beat some, yeah, but you're not ready for this. And so all UCF was ever told was, hey, you're okay, but you're not quite good enough. And it felt a lot like, kind of like you patch little brother on the back and say, yeah, you can't really play here, but good job anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And for years they fought for respect. For years they fought for the opportunities, and everyone just said, yeah, it's a cute story, but no, you can't, you don't belong here. And then finally they crack through. And so you're seeing that little brother who went through a 7-inch growth spurt in the summertime and now comes back and is just as tall as his big brother. And it's like, well, wait a minute, we're here now. Let's have a conversation. And it's all those years of being picked on. It's all those years of being told what they couldn't do. It's all those years of being sort of sent to the kids' table that it's now pent up. And now it's like, hey, we're here. We're good, and you're going to listen to us. And as soon as someone brings disrespect out to UCF fans, they just jump all over it. And Utah clearly came in and thought that they were, for whatever reason, the best school the Big 12's ever seen. And UCF was like, hey, wait a minute, we're here. We're pretty good. And all it takes is somebody to say a crosswords, call us Golden Knights, call us Central Florida. And all of a sudden you got a good old fashioned Twitter fight. And I think that's a little of the psyche of UCF, online. I will say this, very knowledgeable fan base. I think they understand football. I think they respect opponents who are really good. They sort of know, who's good and who's not good. But disrespect is one thing I think that UCF and the online community just can't stand. If you go, hey, you guys are good and you guys were close this year, you'll get us next year, you'll have a really good cordial conversation. But if you're going to come and be disrespectful, again, you've got a bunch of people with chips on their shoulders who have been waiting years to finally get here, and they can't wait to yell at you if you bring some disrespect to them.
I love. Hey, I vibe with that. Absolutely. I 100%. I love, as a TCU fan and somebody, a school that was left for dead when the Southwest Conference broke up, and is same situation, had to fight and claw for every ounce of respect and earn our way into the Big 12 and all that. I absolutely vibe with that whole mentality, the chip on your shoulder mentality. Absolutely can respect it. There's a shocking amount of coaching talk in the chat. I mean, you've expressed some discontent with Gus Malzahn, but is there any way that you could see him winding up on the hot seat at the end of this year, or is his job pretty secure? I mean, what is your sense on if there ever needs to be a conversation in the near future about like who's next after Gus?
Yeah, he just signed a pretty monster extension. I think it takes him through 2027. UCF, for those who don't know, even though in the Big 12, they're not getting a full share of money from the Big 12. I think that's negotiated through the first 3 years. I think not the latest 4 schools, the first 3-4 schools who joined aren't getting full conference shares for a period of time. So UCF doesn't have the financial resources a lot of other schools in the Big 12 have, or that the new 4 got when they joined the Big 12. So they're not in a position where they can pay a ton of buyouts. They're not in a position where they can buy out coaching staff. So UCF's a bit cash strapped, at least for a couple of years, as they wait for that Big 12 share. So I don't think you're in a position where UCF's going to find the money to pay out a Gus Malzahn or buy a Gus Malzahn out. I think that they feel very good about the direction that Gus is taking the program. I think, certainly there are fans that are probably going to call for his job after he loses a game, right? That's everywhere. But I think the administration, I think the athletics department, I think they're satisfied with what Gus has brought. I think if anything, UCF fans are probably a little bit more concerned about Gus leaving them, right? I think, for those who don't know, Gus is from Arkansas. He's made no secret that, Arkansas Razorbacks are like a dream job for him as a kid. All he cared about was the Razorbacks. Sam Pittman is not exactly Sam Pittman's not exactly burning the midnight oil over there at Arkansas.
Yeah.
So I think there's some thought of like, would Gus do one more round in the SEC to prove that he can make it? It's not I don't think it's a quiet secret that Gus doesn't love the way his SEC tenure ended at Auburn, being unceremoniously kicked out. I think there's probably a bit of his ego that says, "Hey, I'd love to get right back in there and show them that I can do the Big 12." So, or rather, the SEC. And so, I think UCF will keep him. I think more people are concerned. Will Gus want to hang in there for this job, and will he want to stay in there for a while? But I think they're happy with what Gus has built, and I think you can speak to the extension you just signed as kind of evidence of that they're not, I don't think, thinking about making a move anytime in the near future.
All right, there you go. Okay, so I think it's time to move on to some other stuff, namely space trivia. Okay, so I'm going to ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
This is for the honor of UCF, for the honor of Space U. All right, because I have Houston coming on in 2 weeks, and here's the thing: whoever gets the most of these 5 questions right in space trivia, they're going to be Space U for the next year. That's just them's the rules. Okay, I don't make the rules. By the way, for those of you watching, if you have not already, you need to check out my Space Court sketch right here that I made. What was this, a year ago at this point? Yes. Just making fun of this whole chicanery of like who actually is Space U, who invented space, should it belong to Houston, who gets custody of space, right? I tried to set up kind of like a divorce court thing. So check that out if you haven't. But okay, 5 space questions. Adam, are you ready?
Probably not, but I mean, for the good of the university, I will put my degree to the test.
Yes, I'm assuming that, I mean, I don't know yet. I'm assuming that my Houston guests have just about as much experience with space as you do.
Well, so they have an advantage now because they can see that there's been some questions already, so they kind of know where they're. So I get the ball first, so I mean, so they get to understand what they got to do. I mean, just point it out there that
I mean, I guess they could spend 2 weeks studying assorted space trivia if they wanted to. But
they have nothing else to do. Once they get bounced out of the tournament, they got nothing else to do. So they might just do that.
That's true. Really zing. Okay. All right. So first question for you. Adam, what is the hottest planet in the solar system?
I'm gonna go with the sun. Are we counting the sun?
No, the sun's not a planet. The sun's a star.
Okay.
So I'm going to make sure. It's okay.
All right.
That doesn't count as your answer. What's the hottest planet in our solar system?
Our solar system.
Yes.
Ooh. Venus?
Venus is correct. Very nice. Okay. This actually surprised me because Venus is the second closest planet to the sun, but because it has, here we go, because the atmosphere is very thick and made up of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, it insulates the planet, so it is actually hotter than Mercury. The more you know, right? Okay, you are 1 for 1 so far, Adam. Very nice. What is the only planet that we have discovered that is not named after a god?
After a god? Like
Greek god, like Roman gods, right?
Mercury, Venus. I feel like this is a trick. I don't know of a god named Earth.
You are correct. You are 2 for 2, Adam. That is fantastic. Okay. You're carrying the banner so far.
All right, 40%. I'll take it so far. Okay.
Okay. All right. 2. All right. We got 3 more. Okay. How many stars make up the Big Dipper?
The Big Dipper?
Mm-hmm.
The Big Dipper. Man, 6?
Oh, the answer is actually 7. 7 stars make up the Big Dipper. Okay, you're 2 for 3. That's not terrible. Not terrible. Right. Okay, let me find another one here. Okay. All right. What is at the center of the Milky Way galaxy? Our galaxy.
Center of the Milky Way. It's wait, so that's the is it the like a black hole, the black hole? No?
It is a black hole. Very nice, Adam. Yes. 3 for 4. Excellent. Fantastic. Okay. Not bad at all. You got 1 question left. We'll see if we can make this 4 for 5.
Okay.
Let me see here. Where was this one that I had? Okay. What constellation represents a hunter with weapons?
How many constellations do I know? Orion's belt.
Orion is the answer. Yes, very
Oh,
nice.
okay.
Yes,
Shout out to
Adam.
Men in Black for that one. Men in Black's the only reason I know anything about Orion's belt.
My Minnie Mouse, yeah, Men in Black. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
only reason. Yes,
Well, my small Minnie Mouse hat is off to you, friend. 4 out of 5. That's pretty tough for Houston to beat.
man.
Okay, so
Okay,
you're definitely, and I'm gonna write it down in my
take
notes.
that. Take
Yeah,
that, Houston podcast.
they're gonna have
Scott
to
and
be
Holman,
perfect.
whoever's coming on, take that, Scott and Holman. I'm ready for you.
They're gonna have to be perfect to claim, or at least not share the title of Space U with you. Very nice. Okay, well, so we've hit on one UCF stereotype, and we're gonna do another one. As everyone knows, UCF resides in sunny Orlando, Florida, the same
Yeah.
city more or less as everybody's favorite theme park on the East Coast, Disney World. So, Adam, you are gonna help me create a tier list of Disney World rides. Are you prepared for this? When was the last time you were at Disney World?
I think so. It's probably been about 5 years or so since I've been at Disney World. So I think I'm ready for this. I may have missed something. There are new rides all the time, but I'm gonna give it the old college try.
Yeah, so a couple of these will be new to you. But yes, and so this isn't every ride at Disney World. These are just kind of like the greatest hits. I think I got like 27 on here. And it's Disney World rides, not Disneyland. There is a difference. I'm probably going
Yes,
to
big difference.
let
This
my
is just
freak flag
Magic
fly a
Kingdom,
little
by
bit.
the way. Just Magic Kingdom. We're not talking Epcot. We're not
All
talking
4 parks. So
all four
I
parks.
pulled
Okay.
from Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. They're all here. No water parks though.
Okay.
So we'll just go through them one by one. First, I got here
Yeah.
is Big Thunder Mountain, the wildest ride in the wilderness, as many know it.
Yeah.
One of the great Disney mountains. Where are you ranking Big Thunder? I'm assuming that you've ridden Big Thunder before.
I have. Big fan of this ride. This is probably one of my favorite rides there. This is top tier. I mean, this is when you're going to Disney, you're gonna want to see this. This is top tier. So this thing goes all the way to the top.
All the way to the top. Okay, Big Thunder S tier. That's I would definitely put it A. S tier might be that might be a little controversial. I don't know. We'll see in the
Yeah,
chat.
it goes to the top. Yeah.
Okay. Bopping over to Animal Kingdom now. Less of a traditional ride, but certainly a very cool experience. Kilimanjaro Safaris. This is where you drive around in the truck. You see the animals. It's very cool. What do you think about Kilimanjaro Safaris? Have you ridden it?
I have. So this may be controversial, and I have no inside information. I have no sourcing on this, but here's my theory with Animal Kingdom. I don't know how real some of those animals really are. I don't know how much you're getting subterfuge versus you're getting real animals. So for me, I have skepticism there. That's a C for me. That's a C because I don't know if I'm looking at a stuffed giraffe. Is that a real giraffe? I don't know what I'm looking at there. So give me a C on that one. That's just my hot take.
Are you a birds not real truther? Adam?
No, I'm pro bird. Believe in the bird. I just there are sometimes you ride past you like there's no way that thing. Why isn't it moving? That hasn't moved in weeks. And if you go there enough, you're like, I could have sworn it was standing there last time I was here. So I just think there's a little bit of little subterfuge, little tomfoolery going on with some of the rides there. It's all
conspiracy. By the way, I do want to make clear with Kilimanjaro Safaris, for example, it is just rides. I'm not including experiences like, for example, the Story of America show and Epcot that I demand to see every time, and I always get emotional while my wife takes a nap. That's not included in this. No shows. It's just things you got to wait in line and you ride. Okay. So staying in Animal Kingdom. Expedition Everest. This is the one that used to have the working Yeti animatronic. Now it just sits there like this. How do you feel about Expedition Everest?
Yeah, again, I think I wasn't aware that they changed the animatronics. I don't know when the last time I was on that ride.
Well,
so that
is my understanding.
That's an important upgrade. That's an important update. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a load-bearing Yeti, so they can't fix the Yeti. It just sits there like this.
Happiest place on earth. No.
At you.
No, yeah, give me a C on that one then. Like if we're not even able to construct the ride the way it was designed, we're already behind the 8 ball on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely low on my list. Another Animal Kingdom here. This is Dinosaur. I think the actual subtitle is Race to Extinction. This is where you go back in time and you're trying to bring back an iguanodon. For some reason, you go back in time to the exact moment when the asteroid is hitting. Poor planning, if you ask me. But how do you feel about the dinosaur ride?
I'm going to give this one a B. Only
Okay.
because I think, it's not the most, exhilarating ride, but sometimes you've been out in the park for a while, Clint. You just need to sit down a little bit. You need a little AC, right? You just need a little bit of a respite. You're hot, things are going. And this is a nice, like, change of pace. This is a nice, all right, I've done some fun stuff. Let me just, yeah, kids, look at the dinosaur, and you keep it moving there. So I'm going to say this one comes in clutch when needed. So I'm going to put it in a B category.
Okay. This is another good need some air conditioning, time to sit down and ride perhaps. The Little Mermaid ride in Magic Kingdom. Where are you putting Little Mermaid? This is one that my wife definitely is like, gotta ride every time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on if you have kids with you, right? If it's just a couple adults, I mean, hopefully there's, your picture isn't on the post office or something like that. I think a good solid B there, though, right? I think that a good solid B. I think to your point, it's not showing off. It's not, it's not going to knock your socks off, but it's a jolly good time. It's a must do, and yes, it's a nice little respite if it's 9 million degrees like it often is in Florida.
Okay, similar vibe. Peter Pan's Flight. This is another dark ride, another slow mover. We go through Neverland and all of this. Personally, I prefer the Disneyland version. I think the Disneyland version is a little bit cooler, personally. But how do you feel about Peter Pan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go B on that one too. I think it's kind of in that same genre. It's hard to separate those three from each other. I think they're all hand in hand. So I'm gonna go B there.
All right, very nice. So this is a new one. You will have not ridden this one. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I did go to Disney World fairly recently and rode this. I wasn't wowed by it personally. The pre-show is very cool. You get like beamed up to a spaceship. But it's Guardians music and like the coaster is kind of free flowing. I guess I could look up a description for you just so you're not completely flying dark here. Are you a Guardians of the Galaxy fan?
Yeah, I don't want. So I have never been on this one. To your point, I have heard it's not bad. I've heard a lot of people say it's actually a decent ride.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know it very. I do know I had a friend who ran on that thing and got like really sick. I guess there's a motion sickness potential on there, and so I haven't been on there, but I've heard good things. So I'm willing to throw it in the A category just because I feel like the people that I know wouldn't steer me wrong on that one. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, it's a staple of Americana, right? You can't go bad. You can't go wrong there. So I'm willing to throw it in an A, although full disclosure, never stepped foot on it.
Here's your official description from DisneyWorld.com. This family thrill attraction features the first ever reverse launch on a Disney coaster and is one of the largest fully enclosed coasters in the world. An innovation from Walt Disney Imagineering, this coaster rotates 360 degrees so you can focus on the action. So there you go.
Yeah, I like that already. That feels like an A.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a lot of projections, and I tend to vibe a little less with rides that really rely on screens. But it was fun. It was a good time. It just sucks now that everything at Disney is so expensive, and you have to buy lightning lanes, and that you have to like purchase the opportunity to wait in line. It's a bunch of nonsense. Let's go back to a classic, Haunted Mansion. How do you feel about Haunted Mansion?
Big fan of Haunted Mansion. Again, to your point, it's a staple. You got to see it every time you're there, even though you kind of know what it is. I'm going to put this one up in the A category. Big fan of Haunted Mansion.
A tier for Haunted Mansion. Have you ridden, I believe this is at least 5 years old, have you ridden Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, the Snow White ride in Magic Kingdom?
Can't say that I've ridden that one. Don't know, but I'm a big fan of the Seven Dwarfs. There's 7 of them. That feels good to me. When in doubt, I'll go with a B on this one. But I don't have any insight on that one.
It's a solid ride. If next time you go to Disney, make sure you ride it. It's a solid ride. Are you a Frozen guy, Adam? How do you feel about Frozen?
Well, I don't know that I call myself a Frozen guy. I've seen and Frozen's been in my life thanks to my children for a number of years now. So very familiar with Frozen. I don't think I've gone as far as to peg myself as a Frozen guy, though.
So have you ridden the ride at Epcot?
I have.
Okay, and where would you rank it?
It feels like a nice B ride too. I mean, my kids loved it, and that was probably you saw their excitement on there, but I wasn't like, oh my God, this is life changing. But the kids enjoyed it, and a catchy song after a while. Yeah, I'll give it a B. I'm not married to either way.
You can be honest, Adam. You can be honest. If you if you had a religious experience seeing Elsa, you can be honest. All right. This is a safe
No,
space here.
I wish, Clint. No, I wish I was hoping. I went into it hoping I would. We all need that change in pace of life. I thought that was going to be it for me. Turned out it wasn't. But I'm good with a B though. I think that's still a solid score for that ride.
For those of you old time Disney folks, by the way, this Frozen ride used to be Maelstrom in Norway. If anyone remembers Maelstrom, it had lots of like trolls and like Norse gods and stuff. Whole different vibe. Whole different vibe. Did you ride Maelstrom, by the way, Adam, ever in the older days?
I don't think so. It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. Well, all right. So back to Animal Kingdom. This is probably my favorite ride. If not my favorite, tied for my favorite, Avatar Flight of Passage. Have you ridden this one? Where you ride on the back of one of those Avatar dragon guys?
I have. That one can go all the way to the top, my friend. That is a top tier ride in my. That's a must do on any Disney trip.
Yeah, fantastic ride. And now with the waits the way they are, with getting rid of fast passes, it was never any lower than 4 hours the last time I was there. Adam, are you truly living if you are not living with the land? How do you feel about the sleeper best ride at Epcot, Living with the Land?
It's actually an interesting ride. Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna for you thrill seekers out there, maybe look elsewhere. But it's an interesting little ride. I mean, I'm willing to go A. I'm willing to give that one an A. I think it's a must do. Like it's
S or nothing
off the list.
It's S or nothing.
Is that right? Wow. I mean,
I love it.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, my wife's like, "You're such a nerd." I'm like, "I love it. Look at the plants; they're growing weird." And
yeah, it's interesting to like, oh wow, look at that. There's something, but like, yeah, I mean, you also could take a nap on it and wake up and be like, oh, what did I miss? Nothing. Okay, cool. But if you're awake for it, it's a good experience. So
definitely.
Especially if you've been drinking around the world, that is a great ride to go on. If you've already had a few too many sakis and you end up on that one, I mean, that's a nice one to kind of take the edge off a little bit.
Truly. Okay, staying in the land pavilion there at Epcot. How do you feel about Soarin'?
Ooh, I'll go A on that one too.
I'm a big Soarin' fan. As long as you're sitting in the middle and preferably on the top where people's feet aren't dangling in your face, it's really great. As because if you're in the middle, then the Eiffel Tower doesn't become phallic.
Yeah, it can go really, really good, or it can go really, really bad. Like I feel like you've really gotta know what you're doing on that one, and but it's a good experience if you're ready for a good experience.
Yeah. Plus, you gotta love Patrick Warburton giving you safety instructions, right? Nice work.
Anytime I can get putty in my life, I'm all in.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a very controversial ride because this ride replaced Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in Disney World. Mr. Toad is still in land, but it has been replaced by Winnie the Pooh, the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh in Disney World. I love Winnie the Pooh. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Where does Winnie the Pooh rank on your tier list, Adam?
I'm a big Winnie the Pooh guy as well. I do very much miss Mr. Toad though. That was a really solid, kind of low key, sneaky good ride to be on. So it's tough to disassociate my love for Mr. Toad. But Winnie the Pooh has been with me since I was a young child, and so I'll go A. Give me an A on Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
It doesn't feel good to give Winnie the Pooh a B. I mean, Winnie needs an A. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That would just make him sad. We don't want to do that. No. Okay. Jungle Cruise. Are you a dad jokes guy? Do you like puns, Adam? Do you enjoy the Jungle Cruise?
I like a good dad joke. I don't know that I love the Jungle Cruise. I want to put that in the C category, frankly. Because I feel like if I'm going to maximize the amount, like I feel look at it this way, like a college football coach, I've got a game plan, right? I've got 4 quarters to get in all these plays I want to get into, right? Jungle Cruise feels like the fake punt. I might want to run it, but I got so much other stuff going on that I don't want to risk it. And so it's in my playbook. And if the time presents itself, I'll run the fake punt, but I got so much other stuff I need to get to. And so that's kind of where I am with the Jungle Cruise.
What an astute explanation of skipping
Thank you.
Jungle Cruise. Yes.
Yeah. I've all
Yeah.
these other plays I need to run. I got to get a 3rd and 2. I need, I just need certain play. Now, if the other team presents an opportunity, maybe I take it, but I'm
Yeah.
not counting on it.
We love the backside of water, but do we want to wait 75 minutes for it? I don't know. Right.
Yeah. Feels like a no.
Okay. Have you been there since they made Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios? Slinky Dog Dash is what we've got up next. Have you
I have
ridden or
not
seen Slinky
been.
Dog Dash?
I have not been to that one. No.
Okay. It is pretty cool. It's not like the most thrilling coaster, but it's very fun theming. It's like Andy built it in his backyard, and there's all these fun little details, and it's fast and fun.
Yeah.
But not like it's not like a Six Flags style roller coaster that's like extreme thrill. Are you vibing with it?
I'm a big Toy Story guy. Big Toy Story guy. I've enjoyed the franchise, and so I'm willing to put it in sight unseen. I'm willing to put it in that B category. Now I can be convinced if you think it belongs in an A, Clint. I'll phone a friend here. You can twist my arm on this one.
It's one. I mean, I would probably I would put it above Dinosaur. I mean, it's very similar to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, like thrill wise, and they're both very fun theming. But the wait is usually very long. This is one that whenever my wife and I have gone, we have skipped more often than we haven't, just because we're like, ugh, like there's so many long lines at Hollywood Studios, and like, is this one that we want to wait for? But the theming is very fun, and like the line is very fun. It's all like you're toy sized and you're in Andy's backyard, so that's fun about it. Okay, so the history teacher in me adores this ride, and God help us if they ever take Dame Judi Dench off of it. Spaceship Earth. How do you feel about the journey of human communication?
Big fan. This is another low key, maybe you go in low expectations, but it turns out to be a better ride than you think. I mean, as I'm looking at the tiers now, this is where I'm getting stuck, Clint, because in my mind I give it a score, and then I look at the screen and I go, oh, wait a minute, is it on par with that one? Yeah. So that's where I want to put this one in the B category.
Okay.
I may personally think it's probably closer to an A, but as I look at the peer groupings here,
it's definitely an A for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay with a B on this one. I look at the peer groupings there.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's your list, man. It's your list. What about Star Tours? Surely you've ridden Star Tours.
Yes. Man, I don't really have a feeling one way or the other on this one. I guess I'll go with a nice meaty B on this one as well. I don't really have a feeling one way or the other on this one. It's kind of there. You go to it and like you leave it, and then you're like, oh, that was fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's it kind of I was always I would still consider myself a big Star Wars fan, but Disney has really like peed in my Cheerios as far as Star Wars is concerned. I'm not a fan of the sequels at all. I loved Andor and I liked Rogue One a lot, but pretty much everything else they've done I've just thoroughly despised. So that's really kind of sullied my enjoyment of Star Wars at the parks. But yeah, I think B's fair. I guess it's a fun ride. This is another new one for you. This is in the Paris Pavilion in Epcot, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. You are shrunk down to the size of a rat, and you kind of scurry through the kitchen, and there's like flames and there's smells, and it's like immersive experience. How does that strike you? Is this something that you feel excited to ride your next time you go to Disney World?
I'll give it a whirl. I like the idea. If you're telling me that there's different scents in different parts of the ride, I like the ingenuity of that. Let me park it as a C for right now, just because it's kind of incomplete for me. Sure. And I also don't really like rats, just as a general rodent principle. But I mean, I'm open to Ratatouille. It was a solid, a solid movie, I guess. But let me park it as a C for right now and check back on that one.
Yeah, big fan of the movie personally. That's an outstanding
solid movie. Solid movie. Yeah.
This is another new one, and this was an immediate S for me whenever I got to ride it. The Tron Light Cycle Run. You are right. It's like so I never even saw Tron, but it's like you're riding one of those digital motorcycles, and it's very fast. And especially if you sit in the front row, you have to sit in the front row. It's literally just like you're riding this motorcycle through the digital space and then outside, and it's very cool. Is this something that interests you, that you feel like is deserving of a high ranking?
It does. I've heard of this one. I'm willing to go at the top tier as well. My son went on a school field trip to Disney, or not school, but I guess a summer camp field trip to
I
Disney,
was like,
and came
that's
back
amazing. I was like, I need to be a
raving.
teacher in Florida. Oh my God.
Well, we have openings, by the way. Raving about this ride, and so off his recommendation alone, he's 12. So I'm gonna give him the nod on that one. So this one's on you, buddy. This one's for you.
It's outstanding. Yeah. The first chance you get at them, definitely check it out. It's definitely worth it. Have you ridden Rise of the Resistance in Galaxy's Edge?
I have not.
Okay. This is quite possibly the longest ride at Disney because there's several like phases to it. You like arrive on a starship and you're boarded by Imperials, and then there's all these stormtroopers. You get put in prison, and I don't want to spoil the whole ride for you, but it's just this whole big thing. The buzzkill for someone like me is like, oh, it's all sequels, but it is a very cool ride and very immersive ride. I mean, are you a Star Wars guy, Adam? How does it strike you?
I'm okay with Star Wars. I don't have the affinity that I think many do. Like, I'm not going to live and breathe in my life around Star Wars. You didn't sell it to me very well there. I'm not gonna lie to you, Clint. So I'm gonna put it in a C category. I was really you had the chance. You had the chance on that one. I was in the mattress store and I was willing to sleep on the mattress and bring it home with me. You didn't really sell it to me there, so I'm gonna go with a C on that one for you.
It's cool. It is cool. But if you're not a Star Wars guy, then it'll be less cool to you. So yeah, you probably would feel like a C about it. Splash Mountain, which by the way, they're fixing to retheme Splash Mountain to Princess and the Frog theme. Do you have any hot takes on that, Adam? Do you prefer the Briar Patch, the Song of the South version, or Princess and the Frog?
Big Briar Patch guy. This was kind of the staple of me going to Disney for all those years. You go with your friends, right? You take that picture on the way down. You try to act normal, but no one ever really acts normal. Although I didn't really love, you get a little bit wet on that ride. It depends on where you are if you're excited there. But this was the ride for me. This goes S tier for me. This goes right to the top. This was a must do. When if it's hot day, you want a little water. When you're a little younger, maybe you got a little crush on somebody. You're like, hey, you want to go on the ride? Like this was the ride you go on. So the nostalgia takes over on this one. Goes to the top.
Okay. How about Tower of Terror in Hollywood Studios? Twilight Zone Tower of Terror
also goes to the top. Yeah, that's again another. If I'm a football coach and I can only run 5 plays when I start a game, that's one of the plays you want to run. You want to run Tower of Terror.
Yeah, I'll tell you too. I prefer. I don't know if you've ridden the Guardians version in Disneyland. I prefer that one. I think it's even more fun because it's got Guardians music and the fun vibes. But the spooky vibes are fun too. This one gets knocked down for me because of what it replaced. I loved the Great Movie Ride, but this is a fun ride. Have you ridden Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway?
I have actually. Yeah. Okay. It's a fun ride. It's a fun little like, hey, cool, whatever. I'll go B there. I feel like the B category is getting a little bit packed there, but I'll go with the B there. I need to give a D at some point. Jeez, what am I doing here?
Yeah. This is another one that I prefer at Disneyland, but Space Mountain with the toboggan style coaster at Disney World. How do you feel about Space Mountain?
I was a big Space Mountain fan. I'm trying to think about now. How do I slot this with under my? I feel like that it's a notch below. It's gonna go A for me. Okay. I can't go S on that one. It's gonna go A for me. Solid ride, good ride, but I just can't. I can't say, oh my god, I've got to be on that ride if I go there.
Gotcha. Okay. Another one that hot take. Personally, I prefer the Disneyland version, but Pirates of the Caribbean. How do you feel about Pirates?
Yeah. I'll go A on that one as well. I haven't been to. I went to Disneyland one time in my life, so I don't have a lot of context on that. So I'm gonna go A on that one.
Yeah. Do you have any hot takes on changing the auction scene? Have you heard about that whole thing?
I have not. No, I have not.
Okay, so like it used to be that they were having like like they were auctioning off like women that they had like stolen from the port, and now and like they'd stolen like all the rich people stuff. But now it's like the woman is a pirate and she's like, and they're like buying the valuables from the old people instead of like, they've stolen them. It's just a little more politically correct. But anyway, this, people don't like it when things change at Disney. And that was one that really lit people aflame whenever it got changed. Okay. Last one I've got for you. And this is another one that I'm pretty sure is getting a retheme soon. Rock and Roller Coaster with Aerosmith at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, I always liked Rock and Roller Coaster, but it probably does need a bit of a revamp. I'll go in an A category. It's a good ride for us older folks who know who Aerosmith is. I mean, Steven Tyler looks like an old grandmother at this point, but for those of us who remember him as a great singer, I mean, that's a cool ride. Do you know what they're replacing it with? Or is it a new band coming in? Do you have any insight there?
I've heard rumors. I'm not sure. I think that they're replacing it with Queen featuring Adam Lambert. Right. So that's the
interesting.
You hear Queen and you're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Featuring Adam Lambert.
Adam Lambert is where you lost me a little bit.
Yeah. Right. Like what?
Yeah.
Like, come on. I know Freddie's not around anymore, but like, just let it be Queen. Let it be regular Queen. Anyway.
Yeah.
But so there you have it, folks. This is Adam's official tier ranking. Not a single bad ride in the bunch. No D's there. Right.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. Are you pleased with it, friend?
Yeah. In my mind, I didn't have it going that way, but I think we talked our way into that being the right order there. So I think I stand by that. Now I got to go to Disney and see if my rankings hold up. I guess it's probably gonna take me 6 months to get on all those rides. So it may be a multi-year effort, but I got to get to Disney and see how my power rankings shake out.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Adam, thank you so much for playing around and hanging out for an hour. Plug yourself, plug your show, tell the people where they can find you. Please, friend, please.
Yeah, if you do social media, that's X or Twitter, whatever you call it these days, Threads, even Instagram, Facebook, just search Sons of UCF. Audio podcast, you can find us wherever you get your downloadable content. Just search Sons of UCF. Check out our YouTube channel at Sons of UCF. We have live show, we have podcasts, we have videos throughout the week too. So we probably put up 4 to 5 pieces of content a week. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. And lastly, if you like to read, and why wouldn't you, sonsofUCF.com. We have some original pieces, articles on there as well. So you can bookmark that site, check that regularly. That would be much appreciated.
Subscribe to and follow all the things. He is Adam Eden. Adam, thank you so much for being here. And friends, if you haven't subscribed to the show, what are you doing, man? It's at Big 12 VOCFB. There it is, scrolling across the bottom of the screen down there. At Big 12 VOCFB. We're here every Tuesday night, man. The biggest 12. And next week is going to be Utah week. Okay, we're going from one supposed heel of the conference to another. We'll see how Utah's feeling going into things. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy, and follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. It would be much appreciated. And Adam, we didn't even talk about this. How's your bracket doing, man?
Miserable. In the trash. Trash. Just terrible.
This might be my worst bracket of all time.
Terrible.
But
it's the chalkiest tournament ever, and it's also my worst bracket. It's odd.
Yeah. Well, yes, again, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, friends, for joining us out there. We'll be here back next Tuesday. Until then, love y'all. I hope your team wins, and go Big 12. See you around.